Hi, my name is Mark Frentz, and I am really excited about this podcast, about everything that this means for companies. And this is why. I have been on a lifelong journey for figuring out and understanding human potential. What is it that makes humans click? What is it that makes us interested in certain things? What motivates our behavior? This desire to understand humans has driven every single major decision I've ever made. It's why I lived in China for 8 years and Sweden for a couple of years. It's why I've studied about 5 or 6 different languages. It's why I became a psychologist. It's why I've chosen the jobs that I have. Every decision has been related to understanding people. I worked at the largest homeless shelter in Canada for a year. I've worked with disabled individuals, people with special needs in various ways. Again, the purpose of all of this has been to understand what makes people tick. I'll give you a really quick story. This is why I worked at the homeless shelter. I was working with a group of individuals who were trying, very good people who wanted to make a difference in the city that I was living in. I was living in Calgary. And all these people were talking about, how do we help homeless people? How do we help homeless people? And I looked around and I asked, have any of you met a homeless person? Does any of us even know any homeless people? And they kind of looked at each other and went, well, not really. And I went, this is crazy. We are trying to help people without the faintest understanding of who these people are, what their needs are. And that's why I worked at the homeless shelter. Well, let's fast forward to today. I am passionate about helping companies find the correct people for positions in a company. That might be a new hire. That might be a lateral move. That might be a promotion. That might be a demotion. That might be a complete restructuring of a company or high growth of a company. And what I've found is that if we find the right person and understand the right role for that person, we don't have to motivate people any longer. We don't have to worry about how long they'll stick with a company. So many companies are doing weird things like ping pong tables and slides or whatever to draw people because they think this might make the workplace a better place to stick around for a long period of time and increase retention. Or maybe people have great benefits packages or higher pay. All of those, I'm here to tell you, are not meaningless, but close to meaningless compared to finding the right fit. Again, I'll go back and tell you another quick story. I came across a psychologist named Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi. Very interesting name. He's Hungarian, just died a few years ago. And his story is unique. He wrote a book called Flow. It was all about finding what makes people tick, what allows people to reach this really unique place of achieving far more, of doing their best work, the best work they've ever done in their lives. What leads to that? And this is what he discovered. All of us are naturally motivated to do certain things. And if we can tap into our natural motivations, we don't need any other incentive. We will simply love doing what we do. And we will almost, he called it almost like time travel, where we will just get stuff done and won't even think about the time, won't even think about going to the washroom or eating because we're so excited about doing what we're doing. Now, we all know people like this. You've met people, and maybe you have it in your own experience where you have been so lost in what you're doing. You get way more done. You're very efficient. And it was no work at all. You came away from maybe 2, 3, 5, 10, 15 hours of work, and you came away actually more excited and more relaxed than when you entered because it wasn't draining for you. That's what flow is. There was another book written about motivation about 10, 15 years ago, and it talked about how we've got basic levels of motivation. Every human does. So we have our number one would be our basic human needs. Those are motivation for us, whether it's lack of oxygen and the desire to breathe, or the motivation to drink or eat, our sexual drive. All of these are basic human needs. The second level of motivation would be what I call extrinsic motivation, which is the carrot and the stick. Okay, so there are basic human needs. The second one is the carrot and the stick. So when an employer or a government official or a police officer or whoever, somebody with authority says, if you do this, it's good. If you do this, it's bad. And I'm going to reward you or punish you based on your behavior. This is what the research leads to. Basic human needs are always going to be a high motivation, but also that really doesn't help us with jobs or employees or anything like that. Secondly, the carrot and the stick, they only last long enough to satisfy somebody's desires to stick around. People will always leave if the only way to motivate is the carrot or the stick. So again, think about the next time that you're maybe working with a sales team and you want to really motivate a sales team. And so often, like, people put a chart on the board and reward whoever wins. You know what? That's one type of motivation, and it does motivate some people. But that carrot or the stick is not what's doing it. It's not the reward in itself that people are after. The people who win those competitions and are excited about it are typically motivated by other things, like the competition of it all, or the desire to show that they're the best. Sometimes it's a reward, but almost always it has nothing to do with the carrot. It has to do with an internal or intrinsic motivation. And that's the third level. So the lowest level, basic human needs. The second level, the carrot and the stick, punishment or rewards. And the third level, the highest level of motivation, where we get the most out of the people around us and ourselves, is intrinsic motivation. If you can understand what motivates somebody internally, and they don't need anything else to be motivated to this, what would they do in their free time if they could choose anything? And if you can tap into that, if you can find out what motivates them, and you can allow them, not force them, not make them, not reward them with, but if you can allow somebody to find that and do it every day, they will gladly do it forever. And actually, this is something that was really interesting. In this research, they found that if you take somebody who's intrinsically motivated, internally motivated, and you start paying them for what they're doing more, if you give them more rewards for doing it, it actually decreases their internal motivation. So I'm getting excited here, but think about what this means for promotions. Think about what it means for higher pay. A lot of people, a lot of employees are not looking for higher pay or a promotion. We think we want it because that's our business culture, and we think that somehow if we don't get a promotion, we're not doing a good job. But the fact is that if we are willing to tap into people's intrinsic motivation, something that they are passionate about doing without any reward, they will happily do the work that you've set out for them, and they will impress you with what they're doing. Not only that, now, and this is very important, we should still reward people, right? We shouldn't pay them less or not pay them simply because they're enjoying what they're doing. But this is extremely important to understand that people have intrinsic motivations, number one, and two, if we can find the right fit for somebody, they will do what we want them to do, what they are motivated to do, what they want to do themselves, and we will get a far better result in work. Now, the number one factor all research is finding when it comes to employment, and think back to the last time you hired somebody or you were part of a hiring process and it was all about the resume and what skills and experience people have. I'm not saying that is meaningless or not important. But think back to this and how so many people use this. The number one factor research is finding is that if the person and the job are a fit, the skill level, the experience are secondary to that. Another take on this, and this is actually something that I'm most excited about, this is something that we're going to be talking about constantly on this podcast, is that we all have personalities. And what research shows is that our personality is basically set in our late teens, mid to late teens, about 16 to 18 years old. The personality that we have at that time is basically the personality that we have for the rest of our lives. Now, can we change our personality? Sure. There are some small changes that can take place, especially over time. But generally speaking, the personality that we have when we're young is the same personality. We're basically the same person we are when we are old as well. What does this mean? It means that we cannot, I'm going to repeat this because you've probably had this experience. Let's say you've got some direct reports or people around you, teams that you've led, and you consistently try to train somebody out of who they are and try to give them some kind of leadership skills when they didn't have any of them to start with. How did that go? Did it go really well? I know the answer to this. It did not go well. And this is why. Because you can't train somebody out of their personality. Our personality sticks. It's who we are. We can change in small ways, subtle ways, nothing major, generally speaking, over the course of our lifetime. Well, here's the other thing. Every job has a personality as well. Think about that for a minute. Every job has a personality. Think of someone that you've met that is really reserved in their opinions. They don't like to make decisions. They like to just kind of fade into the background. They don't want to be a leader of any kind. Now, take that person and put them into a director role in a company and see how they do. You know the answer to this. They shrivel. They hate making decisions. This is against who they are. They don't want to do this. And if we force people into those roles, they're not going to last. They might last for a little while, but either they're going to leave or they're going to get fired. That's the way it works in a company because they can't. Not that they don't want to, they cannot learn. Now, think about that person and just give them more training. Teach them how to be more assertive, teach them how to command a room, teach them how to speak, teach them how to make decisions. And you know what? They'll learn some skills and they might work some of this for a couple of weeks or a couple of months. But again, you know how this goes. They're going to fail eventually. Every job has a personality. Every role has a personality. And if we can match the personality of a new recruit or somebody that we're promoting to the personality of the role we need filled, if we find a perfect match, that's intrinsic motivation. That is the fit that we're after. And again, it doesn't mean we don't pay people. It doesn't mean we don't reward people for what they're doing. But generally speaking, the fit is a reward on its own. We all have intrinsic motivation, and that's the key to hiring. That's the key to retention. That is the key to finding people that we will get far more out of, and they will be far more satisfied with their life and their job and their role than most of the methods we've tried in the past. Now, what is this podcast about? I hinted that it's going to be about performance and getting the most out of people. Potential. Having said that, there are going to be certain topics that we focus on more. And these are the topics that we're going to be focusing on more than anything else. We are going to focus a lot on hiring. The hiring process in North America and most Western countries is not very efficient and it's not done very well. This is why there's so many recruitment companies. This is why there's so much help out there because generally speaking, we do not do this well as companies. Secondly, retention. This is tied to hiring, but how do we retain people? What is it that will help retain and get the most out of our employees, the people who work around us? Because that's what we all want for each other. It's what the employee wants as well. What about leadership? This is going to be a huge topic for us as well. Getting the most out of ourselves and out of our direct reports is a massive aspect of being a director, an owner, a founder of a company. We need to understand how to motivate others and get the most out of ourselves. Next, we will also be talking about job personalities in general. What are the various traits within a job role, as well as how understanding these roles and the various traits helps get the most out of the people in a role. Again, I'm repeating myself a little bit here. I know that. I am so excited about being able to share this information. When I came across this, I told you that every decision, major life decision I've made has been based on understanding people. When I came across the psychometric assessments that we're going to be talking about and the way to connect employees with jobs, it completely changed my understanding of what is possible for myself. It started to put into perspective how I've struggled with the past, as well as people I know who have struggled and just not been a fit. And we talk about light bulbs going off. This is absolutely one of the biggest light bulb moments I have ever had. When I did the psychometric assessment, saw my results, somebody talked me through them, and I went, this person understands me more than anyone has understood me in the past, and I've never met them. That was fascinating to me. We will be talking about the traits psychometric assessment. Again, the podcast is more than that. The podcast is about how do we get the most out of ourselves and everyone else around us. And so much of that comes to understanding who we are and what role we are getting into, what it takes to be excellent in that role. Here's what you can expect from this podcast. You can expect a new episode every 2 weeks. And you can expect interviews. Most of those podcasts will have interviews where I go to a successful business owner or a business developer or director of a company. What helps them make decisions? What helps them motivate the people around them? What insights they have, which is invaluable. Every single podcast, I'm also going to be talking about some of the research out there. This is so important. So many people make kind of gut decisions, and because we're right maybe 40 or 50% of the time, we think that that's a valid way of making decisions. It's not. The best ways to make decisions on a consistent basis are those that help us in the long run. I like to play poker. I don't play for any money. I just mess around with it. But this is what I've learned. Poker's not a game of luck. Yeah, there's always luck involved in everything. Poker's a game of playing the odds. And if we understand the best decision to make in every situation, we will win more than we lose. Now, the great thing about hiring, the great thing about business is that we don't have to take guesses, and it's not like we're trying to win 60% of the time. We can do a great job of hiring 90, 95, 98% of the time if we get these things right based on research rather than based on our guts. Instead of hiring people that we like or that we connect with, we can find the best fit. And that is super, super important to me. My goal in this podcast is to give you skills and research and knowledge, the ability to make decisions that help yourself and everyone around you in your company. We are after reaching far more of human potential than we have in the past. And you know what? Research and technology is making that available. I love podcasts. I listen to them all the time myself. And I wish you the best as you are on your own journey to making the most out of your own job and role, becoming the best person you can become in your work, as well as creating teams around you that are fantastic. Enjoy listening.